my name is Madison Miner. I am here with Protect Our Kids, and I have the great honor and privilege of having Brenda Lebsack on today. She is a lifelong resident of Santa Ana. She has been an educator for decades in multiple districts, and she currently serves on the Santa Ana Unified School Board as a trustee. Brenda, welcome to POK's podcast called Say What?
Thank you, Madison. Good to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all that you do and continue to do. Could you share a little bit about how you decided you wanted to be in education, and then also what got you involved with such hot button issues as a school board trustee?
Absolutely. I became a teacher in 1990. I got my credentials from San Jose State University, and then my first contract with Riverside Unified School District. And I started in fourth grade, general education, and I wanted to be an educator because I started teaching in a private school kindergarten through a church. My husband was the youth pastor, and just felt like this is what I was meant to do. I loved seeing the progress of the kids growing and nurturing them, and to be all they could be of who God created them to be, and to also support the families and the parents, being, a parent myself. So I ended up going into special education after my first child was born, just because I wanted to work a part-time contract, and that's where it was shared contracts. So I started doing that, and then I did get my special ed credential through Chapman University and my master's degree in special education, and I've taught in several districts, Huntington Beach School District, and then also in Las Vegas. We lived there for a while, then in Orange Unified. Now for the last 10 years, I was in Santa Ana Unified as an adapted PE teacher. So I pretty much taught every grade level from preschool through 12th grade. Both I've done gen education, special education, academics, and PE.
Oh my goodness. So you've done it all. That's wonderful.
I've done actually alternative education too with the court system.
Oh, wow. Well, Thank you for your time in the schools. I know that your time has since become retirement because of your new vocation. So can you kind of go into detail about why? Why did you run for school board, and what it's been like for the last couple of months on the school board?
Well, I originally ran in 2016 for Orange Unified. I was a teacher in Santa Ana at the time, and I was just approached and asked to run. I didn't know very much about the insides of the politics and didn't see myself as a politician at all. But I went ahead and did it. There's a story behind how that happened, but I'll get into that another time. But anyways, I did end up winning, didn't expect to win, to be honest. And then I just started learning a lot because I started delving into the policies and having an education background, and also being a part of the teachers union, the California Teachers Association, and my eyes were starting to open about radical ideologies coming in through the framework from the California Department of Ed, and then seeping in through the policies, and notice laws where definitions were changing. I felt like they're literally changing the construct of humanity by saying in 2017 that there was a third gender called non-binary. But yet when I looked at my California Teacher Association magazines in the mail, I saw that non-binary wasn't actually just one gender. They were listing many genders. And I thought my first job as a teenager was Baskin-Robbins. And the way I saw it was, this is like calling Baskin-Robbins one ice cream flavor, when actually it's many, and it's really deceptive. The wording is deceptive. And so I thought, wow, this is radical. And then, I stepped off the school board in 2020 in Orange Unified, because I moved into another area, and then ran for school board 4 years later for my own district, realizing that if I won, I would have to step down as a teacher. But to be honest, I only ran to inform my community because it's very Hispanic, very non-English speaking. And I thought, I just don't want to enable deception anymore as a teacher to the very city where I was born and raised in. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I thought, I'm just going to run in order to actually protect my job during my campaigning, because I knew legally I could speak honestly during a campaign about what's going on behind the scenes and inform my community. In fact, I even bought a billboard with my organization that I started called Interfaith for Kids. And we did a public records request saying, showing that they had already, over 260 kids had already requested to change their gender with or without parent knowledge, starting as young as 4th grade. So I thought, I think parents deserve to know this. So I won with 200 votes, and it was an 8-year incumbent who I won against, so I was shocked, and I had to retire immediately, and here I am.
Wow, that's awesome. You mentioned 240 kids, 260 kids?
260.
Is that in Santa Ana Unified?
That's in Santa Ana Unified, yes.
So there's other public records requests I know that you've done elsewhere. Are the numbers pretty similar in other school districts that you've done PRAs in? I
would say they're in the hundreds, and the public records request was done in July of 2024. Okay, so it was a year ago. But not all districts. We did all the Orange County districts. We did all the charter schools in Orange County, and then we did the largest school district like LA Unified, San Diego Unified. Not all districts gave us the numbers. San Diego Unified did. They had over 800 in San Diego Unified. I know Tustin did, Fullerton. There were some, but I don't have all the numbers memorized for this interview, so I'll have to get that back to you if you want that question answered.
No, that's totally fine. I appreciate all that you've done in the footwork to get.
Actually, there was a journalist who wrote about it, who interviewed me in Daily Caller. So if anybody wants to get those exact numbers, Daily Caller put out an article on that.
Oh, cool. We'll look up that article. I remember lugging my pregnant body with a toddler, actually with 2 toddlers, to a school board meeting in 2016 because a mutual friend of ours kept telling me, Madison, you need to know what's going on in the school districts. And I kept saying, oh, I'm not a politician. I don't need to know that stuff. And I trust that these grown adults are not going to do my children harm. And because of you opening my eyes in 2016, I've become so involved and informed, or at least trying to be as informed as I can in our school. So thank you. Thank you for all that you've done. You're kind of a, what's the word? You've plowed the path for so much. You're a pioneer, really. When it comes to all this information, I imagine it keeps you up at night, just knowing so much that parents either have their head in the sand or they're saying, oh, my kids are safe because for whatever reason, maybe we taught them different in our household. But something that you really opened my eyes up about was Trevor Space. And so in the last couple of years, when did you first discover Trevor Space and how and why?
Okay, well, what happened was, as an adapted PE teacher in Santa Ana Unified, I teach in multiple elementary schools. So I'm an itinerant teacher. So I was in 7 elementary schools. And I noticed right before COVID lockdown that we had all these posters being bolted into all the student restrooms, giving the National Suicide Hotline, the Trevor Project, which is a LGBT hotline, and then an anti-bully Crime Stopper hotline. So I saw this and I thought, this is interesting that they would put this in all of the student bathrooms starting in kindergarten with a We Care red heart on the top, but on the bottom was a rainbow heart standing for LGBTQ. So then after the COVID lockdown, we weren't on campus, but when we came back on campus, I noticed all these new books coming into our libraries and being featured on the shelves. So they were books such as What Are Your Words? There was a book called It Feels Good to Be Yourself. And I saw these books telling kids that my gender can change like the weather based on my feelings, that there's infinite pronouns to choose from, that it says my gender gender can change depending on how I feel from day to day or year to year. And I thought, wow, this could confuse kids. This could actually create a mental crisis. And as a child, my own childhood, I was definitely a tomboy. So much so that if I was in an unfamiliar environment, if I walked into a girl's bathroom, the girls would kick me out and say, there's a boy in the bathroom. And so I knew that if I would have been reading these kind of books at a young age, I would have definitely fallen prey to this ideology that I must be a different gender, that I'm not, I'm trapped in the wrong body, right? So what I did is I texted the National Suicide Hotline and I said, I'm unsure of my gender. I'm scared about puberty. What should I do? So I pretended to be a child in distress. The National Suicide Hotline made sure I wasn't going to commit suicide first, but then they said, oh, well, you need to explore your genders. And they told me to go to Trevor Project, and then they sent me to Trevor Space, and they told me how to get into it. And then when I got off of the National Suicide Hotline, now this was, this was back in, this was 2022, something like this. Anyways, then they sent me a survey asking me, do you want me to read you the genders they gave me to choose from?
Genders? I was only familiar with 2, but yes.
Right. So they said, how do you identify? Please select all genders that apply. So more than one can apply. And this is the National 988 Suicide Hotline. They gave me agender, boy, man, gender fluid, gender queer, girl, woman, intersex, non-binary, trans, trans-masculine, trans-feminine, two-spirit, prefer not to answer, or write in your own identity. Your own identity. So that's like 11. Then they asked me how to identify as far as my sexual orientation. And it says, please select all that apply. It says asexual, aromantic, aro, bisexual, gay, lesbian, pansexual, queer, questioning, straight or heterosexual, not sure, prefer not to answer.
Wow. So it doesn't even seem like that list is encouraging them to click on heterosexual. It seems like they've put that pretty far down towards the bottom. I mean,
it's definitely at the bottom of the list there.
Right. Which, maybe it's alphabetical, but not wanting to answer. And what was the bottom one again?
Let's see. Prefer not to answer, write in your own.
And then write in your own.
Yeah.
That's not alphabetical. So it seems a little bit weird how they've kind of guided you through that.
Now that was a couple.
Ages?
Oh yeah, and the age, it did do an age survey too, and it says younger than 10. That's the first one. Yeah. So basically what happened is now, this was a while ago, 2022. I went to Pacific Justice Institute, a law firm, and I showed them the evidence. I said, this doesn't seem right to me. And they said, no, this could be a liability issue. So they wrote a letter to Santa Ana Unified, and I requested to see the superintendent to show him all the information that I got. And by the way, too, I just did the directives and did what they told me to do from the National Suicide Hotline. So I went into Trevor Space. Trevor Space said it was for ages 13 to 24, which to me, that's already a red flag because that's mixing minors with adults.
Right.
And I just put in an email and I put in a date of birth of a 13-year-old and I got in immediately. So me being in my 50s, that tells me that unvetted random adults can have access to these kids who are in distress trying to explore their genders and sexualities.
Now, how do they have access through Trevor Space?
I just got in immediately. I got in and I was able to see all these different chat spaces. And these chat spaces that I saw were like Guilt and Secrets, which, that's a red flag for groomers, right? There was the Furries Club, which, identify as an animal, non-binary pals, the Autism Club, which as a special ed teacher, that was a red flag because I know kids with autism, actually research says, have a much higher probability of identifying as a non-conforming gender. First of all, they're a lot more easier to manipulate as well.
Right.
Then I saw a gay men's club with a tagline that said, "Let's talk about boys."
Oh, wow.
Exclamation point. So I'm like, they're not even hiding this. There was a regressor space, which is basically age identity, meaning, oh, you could be a 50-year-old man and say you're a 16-year-old girl.
Okay.
Okay. They had chosen family, meaning if you don't want to, you can be a part of a different family, not your biological family,
Right.
because we're the ones that affirm you. There was another group noticed other chat clubs when they went in and they saw like queer Muslims, queer Christians, LDS clubs saying how you can leave the Mormon church, roommate squad. It goes on and on. There was a witchcraft club, a Satanist club,
Oh, wow.
Trevor witches. A lot of the occult are wrapped around this. The anarchist club. They had tons of clubs like this.
That's crazy. I actually went on. We did an interview because I also help out with Moms for Liberty and CRA. And so after you and I spoke, I actually went on my computer and I made my own profile and said I was a 12-year-old. I think it was.
You probably have to be 13.
Was it 13?
Yeah.
Okay, so I said I was a 13-year-old girl that was confused about my gender. And all I had to do was click this link that was emailed to me from the email address I provided, which I gave them, one of my email addresses, went in. And the first thing that Trevor Space taught me, this 13-year-old girl, was how to delete my browser history with a click of a button. And I'm not a computer genius, but someone who maybe is watching this can tell me. I assume they created some sort of a protection or an algorithm through their web browser so that through Trevor Space, if you want to, you can delete your browsing history as a 13-year-old so that mom and dad can't see what you were up to. And that's wild to me because, when did parents become these dangerous enemies of their children? Do you know? I mean, I don't honestly know.
I mean, Trevor Project also has a quick exit button, and that's the first thing that pops up.
Yeah.
That's a good question that you mentioned. I noticed that when, as a PE teacher, and, I have done academics as well, but at the time I was a PE teacher when the health framework came out in 2018 from the California Department of Ed, and this 300-page document or more, it had things in there I had never seen before. And this is like a blueprint for curriculum writers, for textbook writers. So if you want to get a state adopted textbook, then it has to fall within the range of the framework and the standards. So when I looked at the framework, I saw a term I'd never seen in our framework called spiritual abuse, defined as using religion to justify rigid gender roles such as binary, male and female. So that told me that, wow, just the belief that gender or sex is male and female could deem a parent abusive.
Wow.
It doesn't have to be neglect or physical abuse or anything or verbal abuse. It can simply be your belief system. So
Wow.
that to me was just a huge red flag.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because again, parents are not the enemy. And for them to assume that, instead of assuming that we are our children's biggest advocate and protector,
Exactly.
it's mind-blowing.
Yes.
And I think it's completely false, and it's dangerous that
Yes.
these school districts are now saying we are your family and we'll be, the ones that will protect you from your parents, because your parents will never accept you the way that you think that you are with your gender changing and fluidity, right?
Yeah, and the other thing with the Trevor Space is I noticed I didn't actually talk to anyone. I don't know if you did, but I just took screenshots of what I was observing, and I just noticed kids coming on, assuming they're kids, but saying, I'm lonely and need a friend. Somebody would come in and just love bomb them with all these flattering words. And, that is what groomers do.
Right.
And they take time to build trust. And it's just, I actually also, by the way, I forgot to mention that when I did take this to my school district, they did actually remove all those posters from all the student restrooms.
Oh, great.
Saying that it was age inappropriate. So at least they took them out of all the elementary bathrooms. They didn't necessarily do the secondary schools, but
So
they
they're
did.
still in the middle schools and high schools potentially.
Yes, I have seen them there as a school board member. Wow. Yes. And of course, just this week, the AB 727, they want to put Trevor Project on the back of every student ID card from 7th grade through 12th grade. And I did speak at that hearing, giving my experience about this and what I suppose is a danger based on there's no age verification. You know, it's an international platform.
Right.
So basically, people who are coming in from another country, they don't have to go under United States law either, you know. So, and then I brought, I brought it to a private investigator who is a former retired SWAT, and he's done, private investigation for human trafficking. And I asked him to check this out. He did. He posed as a 14-year-old boy, and he said that somebody contacted him, talking with him and then asking to carry the conversation on an outside platform called Discord. And he said his experience is that Discord is known for child abductions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, child pornography. And so it's an unmonitored type of platform. And so he's just like, no, this is so dangerous.
Yeah. Well,
and they found all the loopholes to get around.
Of course.
This, yeah,
of course.
legally.
And so, speaking on AB 727, I know that it has passed in the Assembly. It's headed to the Senate's Appropriations Committee. And so the bill proposes, like you were saying, that on the back of their student ID cards, they have to wear them. They wear them on a lanyard.
I don't know. I think different districts
schools.
do different things. I didn't know that they wore them on a lanyard. But
yeah, so I've seen a lot of the students wearing them on a lanyard with, the back side will now have a state-mandated QR code. And with a QR code, all you have to do is take your phone, scan the picture, you click on the link, and it takes you to Trevor Space. And that starts July 1st, 2026. Wow. So it's coming very quickly.
I think some of them are digital now, too, some of the IDs, student IDs.
Okay. But there's still access. And so I'd love to explore what you think that's going to do, not just for Santa Ana Unified, but students all over California. Yes. How do you think that that's going to affect the students in your school district that are majority Latino or Latina, and as well as the rest of the California population of middle school, we're talking could be 12 years old, middle school and high school populations?
Well, and actually, Trevor Project is national. So even though nationally in other states, they're not putting it on the ID cards, they're still accessible through mental health places, the counseling office, maybe even, medical places. The Trevor Project is actually promoted through the Center of Disease Control, the CDC. It's promoted through the California Department of Ed. It's promoted through so many different avenues. Now, since Trump has come into administration here, he defunded Trevor Project, and he made it to where the National Suicide Hotline is no longer resourcing kids or funneling kids into Trevor Project anymore.
Good.
Because I tested that out and did it recently. But the National Suicide Hotline is still surveying kids and callers with all these many genders. And they are also giving strange advice, normalizing many gender choices. And there's some very strange types of advice that when I've posed this question on the National Suicide Hotline, they will say, well, talk to your teacher, talk to your friends. A lot of times they won't say, talk to your parents. Yeah. Or if I say I'm Catholic, they won't say, talk to your clergy or your minister. They'll always say, talk to your teacher or friends, which I think is odd. Once in a while, they might say a parent if they think that parent affirms all the many genders that they're affirming. Right. But how will this affect kids? It's normalizing. It's normalizing all these gender choices. It's normalizing, if you think about it, my degree before I became a teacher was actually in counseling. And the definition of psychoses is that your thoughts and behaviors are not in touch with external reality. So they talk about this mental health crisis when actually they're the contributors of creating a mental health crisis where their thoughts and behaviors are not aligning with external reality. In fact, I even tried another crisis hotline. It was teenline.org, where teenagers are counseling teens between the times of 6 to 9. And I said, I think my feelings, it's all based on your feelings. Okay. I'm feeling that I'm a vampire cat. I wanted to see how outrageous I could get.
Yeah.
And they said, your feelings are never wrong.
Okay.
And they said, whatever you feel is good, is right. Don't feel any shame about that. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. Well, if I identify as a bird, okay, does that mean that I could jump off a 6-foot building and think, my arms are going to turn into wings and plummet to my death?
Right.
So how is this actually preventing suicide? I think it's doing the opposite.
And you can take it even into like a bank robbery. If I go and rob a bank, but I identify as someone that's innocent, does that mean that I can get away with that money? Right? I mean, that's how, in my opinion, that's how ridiculous that sounds.
Yeah.
Because they're saying, oh, you can be anything you want to be. Well, if I want to be a bank robber, by golly, I'm going to be it. But then I'm going to identify as a free person that's not guilty. Is that acceptable in their eyes?
I mean, I haven't tried that one as the bank robber, but you can really follow this logic in that way, and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because when you mentioned I'm free, the word free is key. And that's even how I've seen it in the preschool books. I have one, I think, right. Oh, did I bring it? It says they, he, she, me, free to be. And it's all about freedom, and that you have the freedom to be whoever you want to be. And, well, what is that going to look like? Are we talking about changing species? Are we talking about, different objects?
Right.
What does that look like? So it's kind of, it's definitely scary.
It's very scary. And so these kids have such easy access. I mean, you and I both did it. I didn't do it as in depth as you did, but it didn't take verification. They never asked for proof of my age. I made up a birthday just knowing I have 4 kids, so I know kind of where their birthdays run, right? So I was able to guess on an age and click it in there. There was no verification. So, I'm a 40-year-old woman. You're slightly older, but you were able to also get into there lying about your age.
Yes.
And we were able to create these profiles that were very quickly contacted by strangers, or we could search through these chat browsers, right? Through these chats.
Yes.
And make friends with perfect strangers. Who knows what their background is? Maybe it's a 50-year-old pedophile that's identifying or saying that they're a 13, 14-year-old female or male child in these chats as well. How are we to then monitor as parents that they take these conversations to Discord, which sounds like it's a very easy jump to this other application. And now there's this potential grooming happening with this pedophile with a child. Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah, and when we brought this up in the hearing on July 9th in Sacramento, the author of the bill, I forget his name, is it Mike Gonzalez or something?
Okay.
The assemblyman.
Yeah.
As hate and discrimination rise across this nation, LGBTQ plus youth have now become a target of the federal administration and now targeting the 988 hotline, especially the services that support LGBT plus youth mental health services. AB 727 is a simple bill that will put the Trevor Project Suicide Hotline on the back of student ID cards, increasing access and increasing visibility of LGBT plus specific resources for our queer communities. This bill is not about silencing faith. It's about saving lives. It's about making sure that every child, regardless of who they are, knows they are worthy of love, care, and the protection.
He said, oh, it is monitored through AI. Trevor Space is monitored through AI. So I think also about suicide that when you think about sextortion, when you get a kid to maybe take a picture of themselves and send it to somebody and then say, oh, I'm going to share this picture everywhere. It's almost like blackmail, right?
Yeah.
It is, you do what I say, otherwise I'm going to send this to your parents. I'm going to send this to your friends.
Right.
And then that kid feels trapped and feels like, oh my gosh, my life could be over. That could actually cause suicide right there, because now they have this guilt and secret that they don't want shared. And how am I did something so embarrassing, so shameful, I can't live with myself anymore. So I think the things that they're saying is preventing suicide is actually doing the opposite.
Right. Well, and you're bringing about my reason why my kids don't have texting abilities. They do have iPads, but it's, they're playing educational games, taking languages, doing that kind of stuff, because I have read into so much and done so much deep diving into these platforms that I don't feel like it's safe for children to be texting or being on apps. 100% they shouldn't be on these apps, but even texting, because like you said, with the sextortion, it's real. I've heard stories from local moms and dads who've lost children from suicide because they sent in a picture. They were, coerced into sending in a naked picture. And just like you said, held over their head. They couldn't handle the pressure, and they chose to end their lives instead of, come out and say, Mom, I'm sorry, I messed up. I did this. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's the deception, because they keep saying, they're trying to make it look like, the reason of the suicide is the kids, it's bullying or not being accepted. But yet, I think there is a whole underground things that are going on that is very difficult to be brought to the surface, because kids, they don't want to bring these things to the surface because they're so ashamed.
Right.
And yet, I know as somebody who is a former youth pastor, I talked to kids in those situations before. And it did create a suicidal ideation because they felt so much embarrassment and shame. Like, I can't undo this, so I'm going to end it because I just can't undo it. I just ruined my life.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and jumping back to AB 727, California Family Council has really done an amazing job of being involved in fighting against AB 727. And they say that this bill, this assembly bill, that it infringes on parental and religious rights by mandating LGBTQ oriented advocacy hotlines. And so how would you respond to concerns that schools are overstepping in promoting worldviews instead of promoting parental rights and, even religious views when it comes to kids having access to sites like this?
There's definitely that point of view. As a school board member, the way I see it is that they're actually, the kids that they say that they're protecting and keeping safe, the kids who are identifying as LGBTQ, those are the kids that are being placed at highest risk of exploitation, human trafficking. So it's such hypocrisy, because I feel like the very kids they say that they're keeping safe are the ones they're throwing to the wolves. And I have evidence of that because as a teacher, in elementary school, this was a year ago, we had a bookmobile. It's a city library that comes into our schools and parks and zoos in Santa Ana and brings a portable library so kids can, take their library card and check out books without any parental oversight. And I saw this book come in. I don't know if I can show it here, but it said young adult book. It's called This Book is Gay. And I thought, why would a young adult book be brought in? This wasn't the only one. There was many, into an elementary school. An adult is an 18-year-old. I think young adult would be 18 to 24. But when I looked at this book, besides it teaching kids how to provide sexual favors and giving graphics for it, it also says this is how you use a sex app, an adult sex app called Grindr. You upload a tiny picture of yourself to the app. The app works out your location. The app tells you who the nearest homosexuals are. You talk with them or chat with them. Because they're near, you can hook up with them. And I'm like, oh my goodness. When I looked up Grindr, even the National Public Radio said that Grindr is the app that has the highest amount of exploitation of minors, especially boys. And there's just horrific stories of gang rapes and all kinds of things through this. And I'm sure, kidnapping or what else. But I went to the librarian right after work. I said, why are you putting these into our elementary schools? And he said, because I'm getting pressured by politicians. And then I took it to my superintendent. As a teacher, I was not a school board member at the time. And I took it to Human Resources. They were able to get it out of our elementary, out of the bookmobile. But then I went into our library database and found out this same book is in our middle school and high schools and is promoted by the California Teachers Association because they say we shouldn't censor books. So I'm like, wow. So they don't want any censoring, even if the book goes against the recommendations of all the risks and the red flags of what puts kids in harm's way, which would be sharing a picture of themselves on social media and especially on an app that can access their location. It's insane.
No, I'm so mad right now.
It's double speak to
Yeah.
and, you know, when I show, you know, because I'm in an area where I'm representing gay parents too. And when I show them, a lot of gay parents say this is wrong. They don't want their kids exposed to that either. They get angry. So I feel like you know, when we're trying to, you know, I just feel like this whole, you know, if you're gay, you're for this. That's not true. I know the Gays Against Groomers did a deep dive also into Trevor Space, and they wrote an article called Trevor Space is a Pedophile's Paradise. You know, and actually it's hard to find that link online now because they somehow it got
Tagged or flagged.
removed.
Yeah.
So I've had to find it in the archives.
Oh, wow.
A time machine, or
Yeah.
what's it called? Something
Yeah,
like
in the
that.
archives. And so I know you did a deep dive. We've kind of talked about it already. You did a deep dive with PRAs requesting the information of gender transitions, which any of you watching this, you can also do this through your school district. You can do a Public Records Act request, and we can help you. I'll put you in touch with the right network to be able to do it. There's forms that you can fill out. But please do it and stay informed in your school district, because what Brenda's done, what I've done in our school districts, it's painful to see what extent these districts will do to keep the information from the public. And I mean, I know you've been doing it for years now. I've been doing it in the most recent, probably in the last 5 years, and they don't want to give us the information.
Yeah,
they're hiding it.
It's interesting because the public records request I did, I've been trying to send it to the board members because I'm shocked that so many board members aren't aware of what their own school district is even doing. But like with my district, because we passed a policy in 2023 that comes from the California School Board Association, you can just ask, you know, do you have board policy 5145.31? 5145.31 in your district, because this policy talks in depth about identity support plans.
Can you read it?
Yes, I
would love
will.
to hear it.
It says identity support plans will be developed by students in collaboration with support staff, IDSP facilitators. IDSP stands for, I guess it stands for Identity Support Plan Facilitators, must complete trainings. IDSP planning before engaging in this process. All gender nonconforming students have a right to complete an IDSP plan to ensure equity and safety throughout their educational learning environment. Guidance for the development of IDSP may be found in AR 5145.3. Yeah, so I asked my district, actually, we're going to be having a meeting this month, and I have requested that because we have an ed code, 51101, that says parents have the right to be informed. Mm-hmm. We also have the LCAP, the Local Control Accountability Plan, that says we are mandated by the state to engage our community and have transparency with parents. So because of those two mandates, I said, I want to know as a board member, who is our facilitators that's mentioned in this policy?
Right.
Who is being trained to create these gender support plans? And I do have a copy of the gender support plan on my website, brendaforkids.com, the number 4, brendaforkids.com. And they can see what an identity support plan or gender support plan looks like. But I am asking for full transparency on this. And we also I have been, every month, we have a lot of overnighters, such as the science camps, 5th grade science camps. We have, speech and debate that goes on tournaments. We have our athletic programs that are, competing across, the state. So I have been denying overnighters because of this policy. Because the policy says about overnight field trips, it says the school has an obligation to maintain non-conforming students' privacy and cannot disclose or require disclosure of the student's gender's non-conforming status to other students or to their parents.
Wow.
Right there.
Yeah.
So if you're sending your child on an overnighter, there's no way, let's say you have a teenage girl, there's no way for you to know if a biological boy will be sleeping in the same hotel room.
Right.
There's no way for you to know if a non-conforming, non-binary cabin leader who is a biological male might be the leader for that girl's 5th grade cabin.
Right. Yeah.
Because according to this policy, they can't tell the parents.
Right. They
But-
won't. They can't and they won't.
They can't and they won't. So the only thing as a board member I know to do is to say we at least need to be fully transparent about what parents can't know. That we need to tell them ahead of time so they're not blindsided.
Yeah.
Like they were in Los Alamitos School District, where these 5th grade girls came back from science camp saying, we had a non-binary biological male cabin leader.
Oh, wow.
And the parents had no idea until after the 5-day camp.
I even heard from Orange Unified parents whose children came home from school and said, I'm really confused. I don't remember the child's name. Johnny was put in my cabin, and now Johnny wants to be called Susie. And they said, I've gone to school with Johnny since TK, kindergarten, and I know that's a boy. Why am I having to share a cabin with this boy? And these parents reached out to me and said, help. Like, what can we do to stop this? So they did. They went to the school and told the principal, and the principal said, well, this is against our policy. We can't disclose the child's gender to their parents or to you even. And we also cannot stop them, if they want to, from housing or bunking with the gender that they identify with at outdoor ed camp. Outdoor ed camp, that's 6th grade. So these little kids,
Sometimes 5th grade.
right, sometimes 5th. So these little kids came home and told mom, and so they were able to do something about it. So what ended up happening was that child had their own cabin for outdoor ed alone, because the other school found out about it that was going to bunk with them. And so they ended up saying, well, we're not going to share cabins with that school then, had their own cabin. So they ended up having one cabin specifically for this transgender child. And then the child was given showering privileges in the girls' cabin. So at that time, the girls all went out for a night hike, while that boy, that transgender boy, went in and used their showers and their restrooms. And so, like you just said, there's a protection that the school districts think that they are protecting that child from their parents, but really it's endangering or putting the girls who, have to share that space into a really bad situation. Mm-hmm. And it could have been a lot worse. What if that little boy was never told to the parents that little boy was going to be sharing a cabin with them? Well, what if something happened? What if he touched one of the girls? What if one of the girls touched him? I mean, that's just setting up all kinds of legal and dangerous, potentially sexual situations for these little kids. And it's wrong.
It's also very confusing. And I mean, this is in this book, It Feels Good to Be Yourself, is in most of our schools, and it's definitely promoted.
Can you show it a little bit? Yeah, there we go.
It
feels good to
It's
be
promoted
yourself.
through the California Teachers Association. So if you have kids reading, you might feel like a boy, you might feel like a girl, you might feel like both boy and girl, or like neither. You might feel like your gender changes from day to day or year to year. So if they're at science camp and they say, oh, well, maybe today, on Monday and Tuesday, I'll be a girl. On Wednesday and Thursday, I'll be a boy. And on Friday, I won't be either.
Yeah.
I mean, they're talking about this fluidity that it's anything goes. There is no line. And it's really making reality to be based on outward things rather than factual things that, oh, we do have like chromosomes. We do have this biological genetics, right? XXXY. But no, it's instead based on our haircut, based on our clothing, based on outward things that those can change easily. You can change your hair style or the color of your hair easily, but that's not how you would change, whether you're a boy or girl.
Yeah. I mean, you can act. You
Sure.
can act. My child can act like a girl, and he can say he, is a princess. But at the end of the day, he's still a boy.
And there's a difference between pretending, and I think anybody knows that children are they're imaginative. They love to pretend. And that's why I think this especially exploits young children, because they're so imaginative. And, they might think that they're a dragon or that they're a tiger or whatever. And that's what's the beauty and the fun of being a child, of childhood. So they're exploiting. And children are also trusting. They're innately trusting, and that really takes advantage of them at that stage of life when the brain isn't fully developed.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of trust, you're breaking the trust between parents and school boards, parents and our state
Yes.
California Department of Education. And so, I mean, the way it looks to me is that AB 727 will likely continue moving forward. Trevor Space will likely be on the back of ID cards for middle school, high schoolers. What do you envision student mental health support will look like for Santa Ana Unified, for the school district that you represent, for another, 2 years, 3 years? Maybe. What do you envision for Santa Ana Unified, and what do you envision because of AB 727? What's that going to look like for your school district?
Well, it's interesting because I just, if this keeps going the way it is going, I think it's going to definitely create more and more confusion, chaos, to normalize. It's going to really make mental illness and mental disability normalized. And it seems like I've been noticing it actually even on some of the non-discrimination policies. They're including, like from Long Beach State, we have a partnership with interns, and they put mental disability is one of the protected categories, like race and age and marriage. I'm like, how can a mental disability is now protected? What does that look like? I asked our district to please get a legal definition of mental disability, because the American Psychological Association is, again, playing with that definition. And they are creating this umbrella of mental disabilities where, oh, well, we can just say, well, what about psychosis? What about pathological liars? What about kleptomania? What about, all of these types of pedophilia? Okay, is that a mental disability now? So if we're just going to say that, drug abuse and those things, are we going to just say, well, that's your diagnosis, so now it's okay? It's getting all the lines of what is considered norm and not a norm, it's getting blurred. And that's what creates a lot of chaos, because there's no moral absolutes, right? And that's where religion comes in, where now religion is considered the enemy, because religion, whether it be any Orthodox religions, whether you're Muslim, Jewish, Christian, or Catholic, and you follow the Quran or the Torah, the Bible, the Book of Mormon, whatever, there are some absolutes. It's not just all grays. It's not all, shades of gray, right? And I do want to mention, if you don't mind, because when I brought some of these things up, what came back to me is saying, Brenda, are you saying that if kids are exposed to these ideas, that's going to turn them that way? When they're born that way, right? But I'm saying, no, they keep on shifting the definition. Yeah, they used to say that, oh, you're born transgender, you're born in the wrong body, or whatever. Then if that's the case, why are the books? This is actually put out by the California Department of Ed. It's in the health framework. It's called Who Are You? It's the kid's guide to gender identity, starting in preschool. And this is what it says. For some people, there are more than just two genders. There are more than just two choices. So they're using the word choice. It's not an inborn, innate quality. It says there are just a few words people use to describe their genders: trans, genderqueer, non-binary, gender fluid, transgender, gender neutral, agender, neutroid, bigender, third gender, two-spirit, and there are even more words people are using to describe their experience based on their feelings. And this is called the gender spectrum. So I think it's interesting that they're saying, oh, you can't change a child. If that's the case, why are they saying there's all these choices? I mean, I remember when I was, a senior in high school, and I had to make a choice on choosing a major. That was like a big deal. Like, oh my goodness, I was so stressed out. This is going to be the trajectory of the rest of my life based on this one decision. That's what these 4-year-olds are putting in, oh, you've got to make decision about your gender. That's incredible pressure for these children to be put under.
Yeah. Well, and it's not a religion. It's not even, you mentioned earlier that you've talked to gay parents, to Muslim and Jewish and Mormon, and it's interfaith. It's not just a certain religious group, just these extreme Christians. A lot of us, when we are informed and we are gaining that knowledge about what it is that our kids are being exposed to, we're not okay with it. But what I continue to go back to with all of these conversations that really creeps me out is why are they being so secretive about something that if they were so proud of it, or if they felt like it was something that was just such vital information, why do they keep these secrets from us parents? Is it because they know that they're grooming our children? Is it because they know that what they're doing is against our morals and our values? I think that's the bottom line. And so for me, that just ticks me off, because they are taking away our rights as parents to parent our children. We were talking earlier about the 14th Amendment. We do have the rights, because of the precedents set in these court cases. We do have the rights to parent our own children. And yet here they come with these QR codes on the backs of their ID cards, sending them these books. That's for a preschooler, that book you just read. They're giving them this information, the California Department of Education, and even across the nation and other states, they're giving them this information, and it is so mind-blowing that they have to keep it secret. Because if they were proud of it, they wouldn't be keeping it from us, right?
That's a good point. Absolutely. I think there's a couple reasons why they're bypassing the parents. Because the parents, it's like either indoctrinating and brainwashing the young ones, and they have to bypass the parents in order to, and then they're changing the laws so that the kids have more rights than the parents. And so they're empowering the kids through the laws and deceiving the parents, because they want to change society as a whole. They want to change how we view sex. And why? Why is that? As a teachers union state delegate, former state delegate, in 2020, they passed a business item saying that kids should be able to access puberty blockers and hormone therapy without parent knowledge or consent. And I was blown away by that. So you think about if a boy takes estrogen and a girl takes testosterone, what is that going to do? That's going to create sterilization. They won't be able to reproduce after a certain amount of time. So what is the point? Like, okay, we have Planned Parenthood. They're all in on this as well. So it's kind of like, is it a type of depopulation? What's going on? Because we know that our children's hospitals are also, having these gender clinics, and they are now with our community schools partnering, with our schools, with our health wellness centers. And now our district has something called telehealth, where it's a group called Hazel Health, and they can actually have doctor's appointments with kids in elementary school without leaving school, without the parent picking them up. How convenient. Oh, we'll just let the doctor appointment be here without you present. And the reason is so that it's a convenience of the parent. You don't have to miss work, and the child doesn't have to miss school. So we still get that ADA money coming in every day. But that's creepy to me. That's flat out creepy.
Yeah.
That the school nurse isn't even supposed to be in that Zoom meeting either. It's just the child and who's on that telehealth, paraprofessional or whoever.
Right. Well, and so I think the moral of this conversation and the craziness of all that Brenda and I have been talking about today, we both encourage you, whoever you are that is watching this video, to check with your school districts, to look into what your kids are being exposed to, and have those conversations with them, because there's a lot of secrets, a lot of unknowns. We don't know why schools are keeping secrets from parents. We don't know why they're sending our kids to things like Trevor Space, when the parent and the parent's choice for counselors should be the number one aim. But Brenda, you spoke to the National Suicide Hotline, and they didn't say, go talk to your parents about your confusion on your gender, when she said she had confusion on her gender. They said, have you asked your friends? Have you asked your teacher? And so, Brenda, thank you. Thank you so much,
Madison. I do want to mention about what you just said. One did say talk to your parents, because I did this a few times.
Okay.
But when I said my parents are Catholic, then they said, oh, well, then talk to your teacher.
Yeah. And so that just goes to show there's an agenda that's happening, and we can have our theories on what they are trying to do with our kids. But it's pretty obvious that the general consent, the general idea behind the California Teachers Association and all that's happening in our education systems in the public school sector is to take parents out of the equation with these community schools, with Trevor Project and with other avenues for these families. And so I encourage you, while you're watching this, to start doing your own research and to start asking those questions and going to your school board meetings and finding out what it is that your kids are being exposed to. Because if you don't step up and if you don't start looking into these things, it's going to be too late.
Yes.
And your kids will already be indoctrinated and told that your parents are these wackadoodle religious bigots that you need to leave home and we are your family. And so, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for your years of teaching in various school districts. Thank you for stepping up twice now to be school board member for Santa Ana as well as Orange Unified. And thank you again for being on today with us on Say What Podcast.
Thank you, Madison.
Absolutely. So, again, my name is Madison Miner. I'm here with Say What Podcast with Protect Our Kids. We have social media avenues with X, not the Twitter, with X, with Instagram and Facebook. We also have a wonderful YouTube channel. I encourage you to go and watch all of those videos. Brenda's been on there many times with other videos with Mark and with George. So please go and watch those videos. Stay informed. You are the parent. They are your children. And I encourage you to do everything you can to continue being the number one advocate and the number one caregiver for your family and your children. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.